Good afternoon, Mrs. Lynch. My name is Alex Lynch and part of my study for interpersonal processes and skills. Today we're doing an interview to discuss your job and how effective communication is key for your job.
Okay.
So firstly, I'd just like to ask you your full name and what your job is.
Okay, so Lynette Lynch, and I'm a teacher at a northern Brisbane high school, and I'm employed by Education Queensland.
That's good. I was also wondering today, can you also please give us a bit of an outlook on what you teach?
Yep.
And what grades you teach?
Okay, we're in a special program called Learning Innovation. We teach between grades 7, 8 and 9. What we do mainly, or what I do mainly, is working with the kids on the lowest bands. They're either failing and they have issues with their literacy or their numeracy skills. So we take them out of mainstream classes, we work a two-teacher model, and we diversify, differentiate the curriculum so that these students can actually have access to what's happening in a classroom.
How much communication do you have to do for these kids?
Well, communication is absolutely everything in this job. If you're a teacher, you're basically looking for ways to transfer knowledge. You need to use things like my hands.
Hand gestures?
Yeah, I definitely need to use hand gestures. It's also about very carefully choosing the method of communication that's going to best get your message across. So therefore we use a wide range of different communication devices.
So with the hand gestures, what other types of communication can you use for these kids? So you've got your hand gestures.
Yeah, so non-verbal. You use a lot of teaching techniques. Comes through behaviour management as well. Emphasising things. Sometimes if the class is becoming unruly, you'll even use a hand gesture such as stop what you are doing. You need to keep your instructions clear and simple, and not yell.
That's always a good idea.
Yeah.
In relation to just particularly what I'm doing at the moment, sports coaching,
yep.
These two communication methods would pretty much go together, wouldn't they? So teaching and sports coaching would practically be the same thing.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, effective communication. How do you do it?
Like I said, you have to make an assessment beforehand on the audience, and also what is the message that you're trying to get across. If you're working with younger children, doesn't mean that you change your mode of communication, but you need to use simple language. You need to make sure your instructions are clear, concise, not ambiguous, so people aren't sure of what you've asked them to do. So basically you need to make sure it is short, sharp, to the point, and yeah, don't use too many words.
So with effective communication, say if you had someone who's constantly in trouble, like a problem child,
yeah.
How differently would you communicate to them to the rest of the class?
Okay, you can also use some non-verbal techniques as well. Proximity. Sometimes say you've given an instruction for a particular activity, okay, that child may not be doing what you've asked them to do. Sometimes even just moving yourself physically to stand closer to them. Another thing you can do, instead of going to that child and saying you are not doing what I'm doing, which can escalate the problem, you can draw their attention to the fact that maybe you praise another child. You know, look, oh, Johnny, that is fabulous work. You've opened your book, you have your pencil out, you've started to write all the things that I asked you to do. Fabulous. You can use praise to somebody that's not that particular child, and then they may therefore see that child doing the right thing, and they may then do the right thing, and you haven't had to have that confrontation with them. But
they also could feel jealous that they're not getting the praise that they would like.
Definitely.
Don't you have to really just give praise to everyone if they're all doing good? But what if the child, say Johnny, for example, say if he got the praise from you, and the problem child, what happens if he just went naughty? He didn't do what you were asked to do, and he wanted that praise, but you didn't give it to him. How do you reckon he would react to that?
Yeah, but you can only praise when people are doing the right thing, and that's positive reinforcement. You can also try redirection very quickly. You know, Johnny, take a pen out. You know, instead of getting, escalating it straight away, small small instructions to try and get that particular child back on track before it reaches the point where, say, they've jumped up and run around the room screaming.
The last thing is, do you love your job?
I would say it's a very challenging job, very challenging to do well. I wouldn't say I love it, no.
What could be the highs of your job? Seeing the kids do well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, seeing the kids pick up a skill, but it's also about building the children's self-confidence and their belief that they can approach a task and have success at that particular task, and that's always a nice moment. It's also about building relationships, but it's not only the children but with the other people that you work with.
I would like to thank you today for spending some time with me to talk about your job and effective communication.
No problem.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.